When you finish that, let's crack open this fortune cookie and see what the fortune says. All right, this is what the fortune says. Fortune says, there may be a chow chow in your near future. Also, lucky numbers for today are 5, 32, and 42. See you in the episode. All right, before we talk about the history, temperament, and exercise needs of the Chow Chow, we're going to cover some of the basic facts. So, first and foremost, height. Let's talk about height that you can expect out of these dogs. How big do they get? So we got Mr. Chow Chow here. He's between 10 and 11 months old, and his height at the withers currently is, he's about, let's take the fluff away, he's about 19 inches. He's still growing. For most males, we're talking 19 to 22 inches. Females, 18 to 20 inches. Now, as far as weight goes, males you can expect anywhere from about 44, 45 pounds up to 70 pounds. And females are going to be just a little less than that. We're talking 40 to 65 pounds on average. Now, as far as Mr. Chow goes, his weight is going to be around 45 pounds currently. Average life expectancy of these dogs is between 10 to 15 years. And the interesting fact about their coat, ready? 5 different colors that they come in. Can you guess what they are? Blue, black, cream, red, and fawn. I would say Mr. Chow Chow, again, I'm not a breed expert, but I would say he is in the fawn variety. Now, their coat is very, very special. That's definitely something that sets them apart from other dogs and instantly noticeable, a Chow Chow from up close or far away, and it has to do with their coat. So, their coat is considered very plush and dense, and they have a double coat. That means they have an undercoat and a top coat, and the coat can be rough or smooth. So he looks like a cuddly teddy bear, and that's because right up here he is. His hair is soft like a bunny. But as we get down towards the body and definitely on the coat here on the bottom, it's very coarse and rough, very dense. So feels good here. Down here it's a little rough. Doesn't feel as great. It feels almost like a Brillo pad. The AKC recognized this breed in 1903 and is considered part of the non-sporting group. So a couple other breeds in that category would be the French Bulldog, the Bulldog, and the Dalmatian. And last but not least, let's talk about the health concerns of the Chow Chow. So they are, like many dogs, if not all dogs, prone to food allergies. They can have thyroid problems, they can have hip and elbow dysplasia issues, and they can also have eye conditions such as ectropion or entropion. What that means is the eyelid flips in or out, and if that's the case, you'd have to get surgery to fix that. But other than that, pretty healthy dogs, very sturdy dogs. And in the next section, we're going to cover some really fun, weird, and kind of disturbing facts of the Chow Chow. All right, let's dive in a little deeper on the breed history of the Chow Chow. So this regal Chinese breed has a long and fascinating history. There is evidence, as we stated, that this dog has been around for over 2,000 years. Some say even longer than that. It's said to be the forefather of various modern Spitz type breeds. The Chow Chows have the features of Asian Molosser type dogs, such as the imposing Tibetan Mastiff and the equally blue-tongued Shar-Pei. These characteristics include large amounts of loose skin around the neck, a very broad head with strong, wide, and a relatively short muzzle. So let's talk about that real quick. A lot of these stronger dogs, whether it's a pit bull or a cane corso, cane corso, whatever you want to call it, when they have the shorter muzzle like that and the broader head, it enables the jaw to have a lot more power. And I would explain that as thus: if you have a pair of scissors, longer scissors, let's call them 6 to 8 inches long, the end of those scissors, not a lot of power there. But if you were to take pliers, cutting type pliers, where the cutting edge is only about 1 inch or 2, there's a lot more power in those, in the shearing power in shorter pliers. So when you think about that short muzzle with that broad head, it's a lot of power packed into a small area. Now when we move down to the body, we're talking Chow Chows have a dense and stocky body structure, and you know, pound for pound, they pack a pretty good amount of power. They have strong protective instincts, and they're wary of strangers. Now, here's the big thing when it comes to defining what a Chow Chow is, if I could summarize it in one word, specifically Mr. Chow, and that word is independent. Unbelievably independent and strong-willed. So if it were up to Mr. Chow, especially before his training, if you let the front door open, he was off. He was off and he was a man on a mission. This dog, this particular dog right here, and Chow Chows in general, they'll be just fine pretty much living in the wild. They don't necessarily need the companions of other dogs, nor do they need the companionship of a human, especially if that's not trained in an early age. They're just very strong-willed and independent. They can, however, with proper training and socialization, be very loyal, and they're also known for their high level of confidence. So one of the things you'll see with Mr. Chow is that his tail is almost always fully erect, especially around other dogs. And that's to show everybody, that's like him walking around like this the whole time, right? Strutting his stuff like a big peacock. Now, going back a little bit more about what Chow Chows were bred for, they are said to originate from the sled dogs of northern China and the blue-tongued dogs of Mongolia. Just like its closest relative, the Shar-Pei, the Chow Chow used to work as a multi-purpose farm dog. Among the oldest dog breeds in existence, these ancient dogs were employed as sled dogs, herding dogs, guardians, and hunting companions. Unfortunately, like we mentioned, they also served as livestock, not livestock guardians, actual livestock. And even today in China, some farms still raise Chow Chows for meat. So kind of a disgusting thing to think about, but it is happening over there. It is what it is. At the end of the 18th century, the breed was introduced to England by British merchants, and around 100 years later, in 1895, the first official breed club was founded. And fast forward just a few years later, in 1903, as we mentioned, the AKC recognized the Chow Chow as its own independent breed. And now fast forward now, we have Mr. Chow living his best life, getting groomed every 2 weeks and strutting his stuff. Now when it comes to Mr. Chow, the reason that the owner picked him was because of two things. Number one, rare. These are very rare. You don't see these around too often. And number two, he was told, the owner, don't get a Chow Chow. It's too much dog for you. And he was actually turned away by the first breeder when he said, yeah, I'd like one. And the breeder said, have you ever had one before? And he goes, well, no, I've never had one. Oh, then this dog's not right for you. And he thought that was kind of a silly statement, and I'm not taking sides here. It's a silly statement because how can you ever have experience with the breed unless you get one to have experience with the breed, right? So the breeder would not let him have the dog, so he looked around, found another breeder, and he wanted to prove everybody wrong that we can raise a beautiful, amazing, well-socialized dog. And against all odds, especially through our training program, we were able to take Mr. Chow, and even though he still is very independent and still kind of a cocky bastard, to be honest, he's a great dog, great with children, and okay around other dogs. Like I said, he could take it or leave it, but he definitely thinks he's the... If you asked him how big you are, he's probably going to tell you, I'm a 1,000-pound dog. I'm bigger than any other dog around, even though he's probably one of the smaller dogs we have in our program here at this time. But that's it in a nutshell, the history and a little bit of the temperament of the Chow. And in the coming sections, we'll talk a little bit more about their training ability and their temperament. All right, now we're going to discuss the temperament and trainability of Chow Chows. So Mr. Chow is no exception to the rules when it comes to Chows, and that is that they are not easily trainable. They are not, because they're what you might consider stubborn. So they're strong-willed, they're very independent, and they don't really have this need to please their owners, all right? They could take it or leave it. He has, at best, on a scale of 1 through 10, like a level 4 on food drive, and that's after bringing it out of him. Now that's more a Mr. Chow thing, but if you don't have the food drive, and you don't have a toy drive, and you don't have this natural tendency to want to please the owner, what are you left with? Not much. And so it is a Christmas miracle that we are able to have Mr. Chow out here off leash, roaming around the neighborhood. We have taken him to larger venues where there's a lot more distractions and people, and he does wonderful, but it took a lot of hard work to get there, a lot of hard work. So unlike, let's say, a golden retriever who just lives to be pet and to be around people and to please their owners, the Chows could take it or leave it. So that's the first thing you have to keep in mind. Also, when it comes to temperament, because they could kind of care less about, you know, really wanting to please everyone, or if someone new comes over, you can picture the golden retriever, knock at the door, someone comes in, that golden retriever is first to the door wanting to be pet. The Chow is going to be a lot more aloof. Aloof is the word, and suspicious of strangers. So What does that mean? If you get a Chow Chow, you absolutely have to spend a lot of time, especially when they're young, to socialize them. We already talked about the importance of socializing them in the aspects of them getting groomed. I would be cautious to get a Chow Chow if you're a socialite type person, if you're a type of person that has parties every weekend and people coming to your house. The Chow Chow is not that super friendly dog that just wants to get to know everybody. If you don't socialize your Chow, the natural tendencies are going to take over. That guardian nature of the dog is going to come out, and they will absolutely have the capability of biting the mailman, biting a stranger. Furthermore, that socialization carries over into having other dogs. Chow Chows are not really known for being the type of dog that wants to be part of a larger pack. Best owned by someone who wants to have one dog and one dog only. So now let's talk about Chow Chows and children. If you are trying to get the Chow Chow now and you plan to have children in the future, 2, 3, 4 years in the future, it could pose a problem. And what is that problem? Chow Chows do not like being poked, prodded, tail pulled on, jumped on by small children. Very dominant breed, and so they're not going to take kindly to toddlers or smaller children imposing their dominance on the dog. And yes, I understand the child's not trying to impose their dominance on the dog, but the dog may perceive that when the kid kind of climbs on top of them or just pressures the dog in a way that the dog's not comfortable with. So I'm not saying Chow Chows can't be good with children. He was grown up, Mr. Chow here was grown up or brought up in a household with a 5, almost 6-year-old little girl. And so he's pretty good with children. Again, he can take it or leave it. He'll take a pet or two, but he's not real interested in playing, let's call it like dress up or sitting there for an hour playing tea. But he will tolerate children. He's okay with them, but I could see Mr. Chow, would he not have been brought up with children? He got around, let's say 2 or 3 years old, fully mature, hasn't been around a lot of kids, and now all of a sudden we're bringing a child into the family, right? You have a newborn becomes a toddler and starts pressuring him. He might not be used to it. He's not gonna like it too much. So can they be good with kids? Yes, but this is like the complete opposite of, again, we're gonna use the example of a golden retriever that pretty much doesn't care what you do, that loves to play dress up, loves kids crawling all over them. That's what they live for. So have that in mind if you have children in the household or planning to have children in the household. This might not be your #1 pick for dogs. So who is this dog for? This dog is for someone who has maybe no kids, not planning to have kids, no other dogs, not planning to have other dogs. They want one dog. They want one dog that they're going to spend a lot of time with, and that they're prepared to work with the dog a lot, and like always, do balanced training. What is balanced training? Those of you who don't know, that's mixing the yin and the yang. And I'm not just saying that to be funny because his Asian heritage. You need the sweet and the sour. Once again, like a Chinese food thing, but it's just, I say this stuff all the time. It just so happens to be funny with him, but we need to be able to reward him when he does good, but quick to correct him if he does bad. That allows us to be awfully sheer in the neighborhood with cars going by, because he knows if he does good, I will pay him, right? Nice, beautiful stay, he gets a payment. He also knows if he doesn't listen, he's gonna get pressured by me to comply with my commands, because I'm not asking a dog like, you ask a dog like this to perform, they'll make a decision, I'm not gonna listen to you. You demand that the dog complies like a good soldier. If you're a drill sergeant, you're strong and hard on the dog, fair, but consistent and firm, then the dog will achieve higher and higher levels of obedience training. And that will allow us to take, like we already have, Mr. Chow on off-leash adventures here, there, and everywhere. So you have to be a firm leader. These are very strong, dominant dogs, and no, this is not a dog that you want to be taken to the dog park. It's just, they're going to try to rule the dog park, all right? He thinks he's the emperor of China, this one. If you were to ask him, he's like, yeah, my heritage? You didn't know? I'm the king of Szechuan. Something like that. I'm telling you, if you ask him, he thinks he's the big dog. So, and he is very powerful, very strong dog, and doesn't take crap from anybody. All right, in this section, we're going to talk about the grooming needs of the Chow Chow, because let's face it, folks, that's really what separates the Chow Chow from other dogs, is this long, beautiful, luxurious coat that makes them, if groomed properly, look like a lion. So we've been grooming him for a couple of minutes now, and you can see the amount of hair that's come off. It is important to groom them about 3 times a week at the minimum, right? And furthermore, if they have a rough type of coat, it would be suggested that you get them groomed often, right? Not just combing them and brushing them 3 times a week, but Mr. Chow's case, because his coat can get a little coarser, that every 2 weeks, the groomers come by, they come in their van, he goes in there, he's on his best behavior, and they take from the neck down, they put it pretty short, we'll call it about 1 inch thick, and then they leave more of like a lion's cut. They leave this fluff here at the front of the face, and then they actually kind of do a taper or trim close around the face. It gives them a beautiful look, and it makes it just much more manageable and nice to pet him. Now, with that being said, already knowing that the temperament of the chows can be that they're very independent and a little wary of strangers, it's important that if you get a chow chow, whether or not you plan to groom them early on, if you plan to groom them later in life, you need to start from day 1. I'm talking 8 weeks old. You need to start prepping the dog for what is to be groomed. They need to be familiar with being up on a platform, different types of platforms. And they need to be familiar with different pieces of equipment touching them, the sound of the buzzers, the sound and look of scissors. So you want to bring that around them early and have other people handle them at a very young age. So the best tip I would have for you is that if you can get the puppy up onto a table like this, someone's here feeding them their favorite treats while another person's here touching them, poking them, prodding them, getting used to having their tail cut, getting used to being lifted up and touched in their groin area and everywhere else, even on their feet, because they're going to get groomed all the way everywhere. So make sure you're prepping them for that grooming early on. Now, as far as shedding goes, chows are seasonal shedders, which means they lose their winter and their summer coat twice a year. It's during these times that daily brushing is a little more necessary, and the best tools to keep their rich coat in check include a detangling comb, an undercoat rake, a pin brush, and guess what? If this is dog's best friend, if this is man's best friend, this is dog's best friend, the Furminator. We love the Furminator for most every coat. They come in different sizes and different lengths, and this one's working perfect on Mr. Chow Chow. You could probably go with slightly longer teeth for his coat, but it is getting the job done. And it has this amazing little tool here. Boop, you press that, and this comes right off. All right, so that concludes the grooming section of this video. See you in the next section. So, in conclusion, amazing dogs, beautiful, rare, takes a little bit of extra upkeep with that hair, and requires a lot of you as an owner to train this dog to be the best that they can be. If you do it all wrong, you can have a situation where you have a liability on your hands, and it's going to fit that typical mold of what people think of chow chows, and that is a dominant dog that doesn't listen to anyone, that is quick to bite strangers and other dogs and even children. 100% true. Hey, but that's par for the course for just about any dog that's under socialized, not well trained, etc., etc. So thank you all very much for watching this video. If you're interested in more about Mr. Chow and other dog breeds, make sure you like, share, subscribe. We have more videos like this coming out. Is this dog right for you? Furthermore, if you're interested in getting your dog, whether it's a Chow Chow, a Chihuahua, or anything in between, trained, make sure you check out DIYcanine.com for all of your dog training needs. All right, thanks again for watching. We'll see you in the courses.